we'll talk about something that I don't know if any preparedness channel has ever talked about. Preparedness channels, some of them, including me, have definitely talked about loss. They've definitely talked about death. But one thing that I've never heard a prepper channel talk about, and again, personal experience, is having to leave someone. You might be wondering, what do you mean you got personal experience in that? So, I got to be careful of what I say, how I say it. I have experience in leadership of preparedness groups. I'll kind of leave it at that. And there's a lot of things that you see differently once you've done something like that. One of those things is, in my opinion, is that you become more recognizant, if you will, about negatives. You become more mindful about it. You think about things a little more. And I was in a situation to where I was married, had kids, and I guess I need to go a little bit into backstory so you can kind of understand where my mindset, where my frame of mind was. Now, first off, I gotta say this because I'm not somebody to tell one side of the story. This was during a period of time in my life that I was trying to end the most self-destructive phase of my life. At this time, I was extremely self-destructive, and I was trying to get away from that, get out of that. My family wound up in a messed up situation, and I have to take 100% of the blame for that, because really, that's 100% at fault. We wound up having to live in a camper for a little while. We lived for a summer in a camper. We had a fairly good-sized camper, you know. It was what they call a park model, and fairly nice. I mean, it wasn't a Taj Mahal, but it was definitely livable. And it was actually kind of pleasant living at a campground, to be honest. Nice out there. It's pretty quiet out there, except for me. I found out in, I think it was October, that we weren't going to be able to stay at that campground. Now, mind you, there are several people that live out there year-round. And I had already gone through what I needed to go through in order to take care of myself, well, take care of my family, as far as water and stuff. The reason being is because they shut the water off and stuff like that. Once it started to get cold, they'd shut the water off so there wouldn't be no frozen pipes or anything like that. So those that continued to live out there had to be able to fend for themselves as far as water and stuff like that. Of course, the power stayed on and all that, but they shut the water all down. And I had everything set up to get and put in place and all of that to be able to winter out there at this campground. Well, I found out in, I think it was October, that we weren't going to be able to do that. So, at that time, I had no idea where we were going to go, what we were going to do, and I had been talking to some people online for a little while that were just getting ready to leave Georgia to move to Tennessee to start a homestead. And I thought, this might be the way. A fresh start. Get the hell away from here and have a fresh start. So I jumped at the opportunity. Well, I still don't know 100% of all of those people's motive because things were a little strange. But we get out there, and this is what happened. We get down to Tennessee, pulled the camper down there, took as much of our stuff as we could. Some stuff we had to leave behind, even what my kids called my bumblebee van. Had to leave it behind. It was the people that used it before I bought it used it to haul a stock car trailer. So they painted up the van kind of like a stock car. It had a freaking spoiler on the back of it and all that, old Ford van. And I thought it looked cool. But the kids, it was black and yellow. The kids called it the bumblebee van. I actually, when I bought it to be able to haul my airplane with, my ultralight. And, anywho, I had to leave that behind. Did have to leave a fair amount of stuff behind. We get to Tennessee. We get the camper set up. And I'm helping them down there clear trees and, get some driveways put in and stuff like that. And we weren't down there but about a week and a half. And my now ex-wife had caused so many problems in that week and a half that we had to leave. And it wasn't a pleasant parting. We had little to no time to get the hell off the property. I was pissed, to say the least. I had no way to fix this. That was my marriage, was a series of constantly fixing crap. That's why, to be honest, I became so self-destructive, because I couldn't live. I just wanted a peaceful, calm life, right? Like pretty much anybody else. And it got to a point to where I just didn't give a damn. Well, there was another couple that I had met online and had been talking to for about the same amount of time I would talk to the people that we were with. And they saved our asses. They drove up from Alabama. And we couldn't take the camper. So we lost the camper. We lost some more of our possessions. We loaded up as much as we could in our minivan. They had a pickup truck. Not a pickup truck, an SUV, I think it was. Yeah, SUV and a trailer. Not a huge one, but we loaded the trailer down as much as we could. Put as much stuff in the back of the SUV and in the minivan. Took off for Alabama. So we get down in Alabama. And again, my attitude at this time was I wanted to start anew. With my marriage, with my life, everything. That was my intent. And we got down there, and we were struggling, to make things happen. Wasn't fun. Let me tell you what. One of the reasons why I'm a little bit harsh on people that push solar stuff but don't have really any experience in it, because I know what it's like for your family to be cold, because the quote-unquote kick-ass solar system you had wasn't even enough to keep a torpedo heater running through the night to keep your family warm. Been there, done that. So that's why I have a little bit of an attitude when it comes to that kind of stuff, because there's a lot of people being sold snake oil and they don't know it. And I'm not saying that the devices don't work. What I'm saying is typically it's not enough for what they think it will work for or what they need it to work for. You don't want to be put in that spot. Let me tell you, been there, done that. Fortunately, my family was helped out there too. And it was a nasty winter in Alabama. Nasty, nasty. We actually had a really, really nasty ice storm and snow that year. And they weren't used to it at all down there. It's kind of funny because we needed some stuff to eat. And we were going to go to the local store, right? There's snow and ice out there. We were going to go to the local store and get what we needed. So we all pile up in the minivan and I'm driving to the store, pull into the store parking lot, and lights are out, nobody there, and there's a cop sitting there in his car. That was it. And he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "We need to grab a few things." I came to the store. They ain't open. It's like, can't you see? And I'm looking around, and I mean, it's not like it was, that bad. I don't think it was that bad. But the folks down there aren't used to that. And I don't think that they have the equipment and stuff like that to be able to deal with it like they do up here. To me, it was no big deal. I would have went up and down Sand Mountain without a second thought because, well, I'm from here. And anyway, got turned around, had to go back home. But let me get to the point of what I'm saying. Being that I have been in leadership in certain types of groups, it opens up doors a little bit. And so I was in a conversation with someone down there that was in leadership of a group down there. And more or less kind of telling them my situation and stuff like that. I had to be sober enough minded, if that's the right term to put on this, to be able to face the facts. That there is a high chance that if the big shindig ever did happen, that my now ex could have been the weak link for the entire group. And I couldn't let that happen. And that's the one thing that I'm telling folks that they need to think about. Because from a leadership position, they have to look out for things like that. They have to look out for those weak links. I told the guy straight up that, hey, I can't vouch for my wife. I had to tell him that. I can't vouch for my wife. There could very well be a situation to where it would be me and the boys, and that's it. Because I damn well wasn't going to risk an entire group of people because of one person that would absolutely refuse to stop. It was worse than that. Not only refused to stop, couldn't even recognize that they were doing anything wrong. There was never remorse. There was never nothing. It was hell. Quite frankly, it was hell. That's something I don't think I've ever heard any prepper channel talk about. But it is something that everybody needs to think about if they're anywhere near a situation like that in their own lives, in your own lives. Be ready for that. You know, I was looking at 2 children. And I'm just going to be real honest with you. At that point in time, when I lost my family and all my things, it was the kids that I had issue losing. And yeah, my things I had issue losing. I did not have issue losing my wife. She was that much of a nightmare. I can't say I was a great guy. I don't want to people to misunderstand me. I did plenty wrong myself. However, I was doing everything I could to get beyond that, to get past that, to actually have a good family. And I saw the same mindset the entire time we were there. And then all it took was what I like to call divorce buddies, right? As we didn't know really many people down there, and there was a lady that we met that was a nightmare, bigger nightmare than my ex could ever think about being. And yeah, that didn't bode well for me. I think she played a fairly big part in what happened and how it happened. But anyway, be prepared for that. Be prepared if God hope it's not a spouse, but whoever it may be prepared for that. Because you have to understand it from the leadership's position. They've got an entire group of people that they have to look after. In a sense, right? And so you have to watch out for those cracks in the wall. Because it doesn't take much. Especially when you've got a group of people that come together that don't normally live together, right? And then all of a sudden they're pretty much doing everything together. You're going to run into issues. It's inevitable. No matter what, it's pretty inevitable. Unless you're currently doing daily things together. That would be the exception, but not the rule. And the reason why I say exception, but not the rule, is because it ain't SHTF yet, homie. And there's a lot of people, there are people that are going to crack that don't realize that they're that type of person that will crack. It's going to be an interesting telling time when/if it happens. But you have to try to be cognizant of that. You have to try to find that, spot that ahead of time if you're in leadership. Even if you're not in leadership, you need to look out for those things and be prepared for it. Because you could have a leader come up to you. I'm using the word leader because it's generic. You could have a leader come up to you and say, hey, look, so-and-so ain't going to work. You could have a leader come up to you and not even have that deep of a conversation and just tell you, hey, you're gonna have to take them and go. That's what happened in Tennessee with my family on that homestead. The leadership out there, meaning the landowners, flat out said, "You gotta go." They were pissed. They were pissed. Put it this way: I was watching over my family in a very, very militant manner because these people were pissed. And all I could do was ask them to give me time to get it worked out and to get out in peace. And they gave me their word on that. And they kept their word on that. I have been there. And I've been both in leadership and I've both been the flock, if you will. I was the flock there on that homestead. I was the help. No, it wasn't related to that. What's it to you? Wasn't related to that at all. No. Actually, the straw that broke the camel's back was, and maybe this will shine a little better light on what happened in Tennessee, was that my wife had called called and checked into getting a power pole installed where we were at. She didn't have permission to do that. This was a group of people that did not want things like utilities ran out there. They wanted to be 110% off grid. And here she's calling to talk about having a power pole installed. Well, what happened after that? We got a county inspector or whatever you call them come out there to check out what was going on that property. And upon coming onto the property to find out, he saw our camper, the landowner's camper, and said, you can't. And I guess it was that particular county in Tennessee. It was not far from, Campbell? Or the Army base. Wasn't real far from that. And they had a county law, ordinance, whatever you want to call it, that you couldn't live out there in a camper. The only way you could is you'd have to get a special use permit or something like that, but you have to do all that ahead of time. From my understanding, they weren't real good about giving out those special use permits. Well, anyway, we were all given, and I can't remember how many days, but we were all given so many days that we couldn't be staying in those campers. Well, oh, yikes. Yeah, you can't have that either. Can't have that. I mean, it depends. If they're just a weed smoker or something, that's one thing. But if they're into heavy stuff, no. You definitely don't want that. The other thing that happened that really put salt deep in the wound is when the guy from the county was out there checking out our property, he happened to check out the property next door, which was another group of individuals that were out there that was trying to live completely off-grid and under the radar. And they had a bunch of sheds they built and all that stuff. And again, per this county's ordinances, their rules, you had to have a permit for anything like that. And so they didn't, of course, seek permits before they built because they were kind of under the radar kind of thing. And so they got in trouble for all the buildings that they had built out there without a permit. So that's why the people were so pissed off that we had to go. And it had to be as quickly as I could possibly make it happen. And it was like within a day or two. after that big blow up. It was like within a day or two we were pulling out. I didn't have any more time. That's the time they gave me. I had to figure something out. So that's why I'm saying, don't let yourself be in that position. Do not let yourself be in that position. Because from the leadership me, we can't let that happen. From the person that's been in those shoes, I don't know what to say. I should have. I don't know. I don't have any good answers, to tell you the truth. I don't have any good answers if you're the one in those shoes. Because it's a sucky, sucky position. But I will tell you this. That if you're in those shoes, if you're in that position, and the big shindig does kick off, you better make some wise decisions. If you've got kids, do what's best for them. Put them first. Regardless of what that means. That's what I was doing. That's what I was doing when I had that conversation with that gentleman. I kind of think that conversation, by the way, was overheard. I think that was part of the reason why she pulled what she did the way she did, because I think she heard that conversation that I had with him. Because I had to be honest. Especially after what I just went through, I had to be straightforward. And that's one thing, if I can impress one thing on you, is that if you're looking to get in a group, make sure you are 100% honest. Because it was a bad situation to be in. Oh, yeah, heavy stuff, no. Yeah, you have to get away from that for so many reasons. But withdrawals and all of that good stuff, yeah, that's not a good thing at all. So, again, the leadership me, I've actually had to deal with that. So, more often than I ever wanted to. But I've had to deal with that. And, my view on it, and it's the same to this day. If it's weed, whatever. I don't care. I got way more problem with an alcoholic than I do somebody that likes to smoke weed. But when it comes to, like, serious drugs like cocaine or meth or anything like that, yeah, you gotta get that as far and clear away from you as possible. Because if somebody is used to always doing it, and then because of the events happening, no longer have a source, things are going to get ugly pretty quick. And you don't want to be around it. You don't want your group to be around it. You certainly don't want your family to be around it. Right, exactly. You got to have people with their head on straight. So, just be wise in those kinds of decisions. I know right now there's a whole lot of people that are still seeking groups and whatnot. And a lot of that stuff is kind of calmed down as well. Because, Trump getting back into the White House. And you're going to see it. I already said this before. You're going to see it. You're going to see the whole kind of prepping trend fall away a little bit. It's just the nature of the beast. Been there, done that. Remember when I started this show, Obama was president. So that was also another pretty heavy prep time. And then when Trump got into office, prepping let up a little bit. Of course, Biden got in office, and probably more preppers than I've ever seen in my entire life popping out of the woodwork. And you're going to see a lot of those go back into the woodwork now that Trump's coming back in. It's just the way that it is. And again, mark my words on my prediction that you're going to see a lot of preparedness channels not do so well anymore. And it's going to be a culmination of reasons. For one, it's, conservatives are in control. They're going to win. They're going to fix everything, right? That kind of an attitude, that's part of it. I do believe that you're going to see the economy start to do better. And that's also going to cut down on as many people, quite as many people that are worried about impending doom. Because there are a fair amount of people out there that their doom has to do with the economy. It's going to be interesting. Just keep an eye out over the next 6 months or so. You're going to see a few big changes as far as the whole preparedness. I'm going to say the word industry, and when I say industry, I don't mean the companies making the products for preparedness. I mean the people that talk about preparedness, the people that have preparedness-related businesses. Again, not talking about the people that make stuff for preparedness, but say a retailer for preparedness. You're going to see a lot of changes in that landscape because, again, the demand's not going to be there, not nearly on the level that it has been. And you are going to see a lot of businesses that are going to close the doors. They just are. And when I say that, I'm talking about a lot of the smaller, like preparedness retailers, e-tailers, however you want to put it out there. The ones that don't do a lot of business, but they, some of them do it because it helps them on their preparedness journey. That's the money that they put back in for themselves, the money they make for their own preparedness, and at the same time, and it's not a bad idea, if you're in a retail type of environment selling preparedness items, that means you're probably getting those preparedness items for yourself cheaper. So it's not a bad plan. But you're going to see some of that business dry up, and therefore, some of those businesses drying up along with it. And then as far as the content, you're going to really see that wane off because it's not going to be profitable. Just like I made that video about. It's not going to be profitable. It's just not. Because a lot of people's going to get pissed off. It's you got to see it to believe it. But again, I've already been through this. We started doing this show with Obama. So I've already gone through a round of this.